This is Leatherass for StoxPoker.com, and I'm going to be playing two tables of $200 no limit. I've been playing on these tables a little bit, so I have some varying stack sizes. I'm not sure. Well, it looks like I have two. I'm going to have two reads on the table on your left, and I'm going to have reads on three of the people on the table to the right. So on the table on the right, I'm just going to auto post the blind. It's not something I would normally do, but when I try to get as many hands in as possible, this is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter video, so the more hands the better. So I lucked out. I got a hand I would have raised with anyway. And I'm just going to pop him. Limpers, I tend to just kind of, up the price a little bit. This is really a good flop for continuation betting. I'm going to make it 12 with the queens because it's unlikely to have hit them, but they are both so short stacked. I fear that they might just kind of go with any pair here. So I'm just going to check and maybe I can improve. So I get let into for two and called. I can't imagine a king would do this. So I'm just going to make just a little bit of a raise to like 15. And I think if I get shoved on, I can probably fold. So that could mean a number of things. It could mean the flush draw. It could mean a jack. If he opens shoves, I'll probably fold. And I'm just going to take the showdown here. So I don't know what he was scared of the whole time, but I think I probably lost about the minimum there, given the action. So both the tables I'm at, the reason why I just kind of kept them is because they're both really good tables. No one here is very impressive. To the table on your right, I'm going to have to adjust my game a little bit. I'm always a little up in the air about whether I like short stacks or not. They're always bad players, so that's nice, and they generally go broke. So I guess short stack players are probably the best ones to have at your table, but I don't get to play my game against those type of players, and I like to play deep stack poker and play a lot of poker post flop, but right now I'm just going to be pushing good hands to the maximum when I do make a good hand against these type of players, and that's the best way to exploit them. There's no sense in getting fancy with short stacks. Sometimes in that spot with a 410, I can make a case for just making a big re-raise and trying to take down all the money in there. But the raise came from early position, so I think it's a pretty safe play and good play just to fold the 410. And 5-6, even though it is a connecting hand, nobody's deep enough really, so I'm just going to pass on it. Jack 8 pretty deep in position. I'll usually see a flop here just because I can maybe make a hand. I'm in position. I'm going to outplay them most of the time. When they check, to me it usually means a really big hand or or just a nothing hand, and I think it's a lot easier to make nothing than a big hand, so I'm just going to take my chances and bet it. So it's probably a really big hand, but I think the play's worth it in the long run. So this isn't a great spot with king-queen, because if I do get called, I'm going to have to play for my stack with just king-high. But maybe I can get lucky. Well, that worked nice. Maybe this will be a change of pace from some of the videos before. I'm going to raise it up with the ace-5 suited. I'm going to try to punish weakness when I can. And I'll make a continuation bet on any flop if I do get a call. I do flop middle pair, so my hand does figure to be best here. And I'm going to bet it and see what happens. If I get raised, I'll probably just have to fold. On one hand, it's not a terrible play to just call it the ace-5 pre-flop and try to flop a big hand or a big draw, but at the same time, that play is okay. I think raising and then just making continuation bet is probably more profitable. It's just, you're basically putting them in a position to have to hit the flop in order to continue. I doubt they're going to try to get tricky with me because I've shown aggression twice. And so I feel like, they're essentially 2-to-1 against mathematically to hit the flop. So, I'll just take my chances that they don't hit it. So I think, I'm usually going to take down the pot about 2/3 of the time. On top of that, I can make a big hand myself on occasion and maybe win their whole stack. And you're just not going to get a whole stack hardly ever in a limped pot. You're basically going to have to make the nuts, and somebody's going to have to make the second nuts. And even then, it's difficult to get all the money in. I'd like to raise the button here, but $33, I don't know how much I can really scare him, so I'll just fold. So I may or may not get in a whole lot of interesting spots in this particular video just because of the fact that there are only a couple of stacks over 50 big bets. But we'll see. I'm just going to try to make his life miserable when possible. Just continue to raise him. It looks like he wants to limp into all the pots. King Jack suited, I'm just going to have to fold here. It's not good enough to play for stacks. There's a chance he could have been raising light there because he's seen me isolate that particular player just about every time, but it's just King Jack suited is just not good enough. I might even call like Ace Queen there. Just that would probably be with the lowest hand I would consider calling. The only reason I would even go as low as Ace Queen there is because of the fact that he might be re-raising pretty light due to the fact that I've been isolating. But I would certainly call it like 10s or above or Ace King. Same thing here. He's just not deep enough, so I don't want to, flopping an ace if I do just call could get me in trouble, and I certainly don't want to play for stacks. 4-5 suited against a 40 big bet stack. Just the implied odds aren't there. So it looks like a couple of big stacks came in to replace the two smaller stacks that left, and I'm going to have position on them, so maybe we can get involved in some pretty good pots here. In a big multi-way pot like this, I don't mind just limping in here as well with 6-8 suited and hoping to flop a big hand. The hand plays well multi-way, so. Okay, so I'll just make it 10 with queen 10 offsuit. The under the gun limper has a 55 VPIP. So even queen 10 probably figures to be ahead of his range. Well, that's about as good a flop as I can hope for this hand, so we'll just hope to get some action. I'll bet 23. Maybe 25 into 29. So the only card that, that card only helps the one possible hand of Jack 9. I think I'm just going to go ahead and shove right now, and just hope to get looked up by a worse hand. I'd probably just put him on like a 10. I imagine this kind of player would have just called with top pair there. So, at the same time, there are draws like King Jack, and I don't see the sense in really milking it. I could bet 25 and then 40, but with a set, if I'd had like a set of 10s, I might have been more inclined to do that, or queens, but two pairs, well, I take that back. Either way, the guy was going to have to make a straight to beat me, so I guess the real argument would be whether to try to milk it or not, and I just think that these players tend to just call too much, and when I make a kind of an over bet raise like I did on the flop, they're pretty apt to look me up with top pair, so I might as well just try to get it in, because there's a chance, a card like an ace could come on the river and give him reason to fold for his last $40. So I'll just min bet. This is a bit of a dangerous spot for me. We're really deep. I raised ace-10. He's bet into a field of 4 players. My options would be to call once and reevaluate on the turn. There's not a whole lot of hands he can have there that beat me. Someone this aggressive would figure to have re-raised a hand like ace-king, maybe even ace-queen, ace-jack. I'm going to go ahead and just give him respect and make what might be a pretty big laydown in that spot. He hasn't shown me to be very aggressive post-flop. It's only been 30 hands, but he really hasn't gotten involved. I'm just going to take the showdown on the 10s. So that's just terrible. I can't imagine why in the world you'd want to play aces like that, but pretty happy to have only lost what I did. So I just went ahead and gave him respect. He made almost a pot-sized bet into a field of 4 people, into a pre-flop raiser, with an ace and a king on the board, which is a holding that, you know, he could definitely put me on. And so it's just one of those things where if I'm wrong, it gets really expensive. And if I'm right and I am ahead, he probably has a hand that has a number of outs, like a queen jack of spades, or, you know, some other flush draw or something like that. So I think folding's perfectly okay there. So 9-8 suited. I'm just going to go ahead and raise. It's close. Sometimes I raise there, sometimes I'll just fold. I'm going to fold king jack off here. Ace-3 is definitely a terrible type of hand. You don't want to really ever be playing those type of hands. You know, calling a raise of those type of hands. It's just going to get you in trouble. Wow, 46. I'll let him have it. Sometimes when you wish you'd have a hand. So, I mean, seeing that makes me wonder about my ace-10 fold, but, you know, essentially, still all I can really beat is a bluff there, given that he fired into 3 people. A bluff, or maybe a really strong semi-bluff. So let's see if we get some action on the aces. I'm going to re-raise ace-king and make it 25. Certainly not the best flop for my hand, but I'm going to fire a continuation bet of 40 into a $50 pot. I'm just basically hoping he has a hand like ace-king, ace-queen, and take it down. So that's a really good result. I would figure his likely holdings were ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack suited, or some kind of pocket pair. That's usually what the hands that I put them on when I get called. Pocket pair anywhere from deuces to aces. But I think making a continuation bet on that flop is the right play, because, you know, I described his range as being about one of about, you know, 16 to 20 hands, and, you know, what hands can look me up there or can even call that flop bet, and it's pretty much jacks through aces. You know, maybe a hand like, you know, depending on the player, maybe a pocket pair like 8s through 10s might put in one call. But even then, I could draw it on the turn. So, and a lot of times you'll fold out. Guys that play pretty nitty, you can get them to fold a hand like 10s there most of the time. So the guy sat down that I have a read on. I have him marked as a fish, so that's nice. So corn gristle limps in, and I'm just gonna, try and isolate. This could be aces with this guy from what we've seen so far. It could be anything. Sometimes I'll bet out on a flop like king, king, 5. This player is extremely loose, so I don't think it's going to work. He could look me up at just an ace high. So I'm just not going to fight for it. I'm just going to check it around and see what happens. So far I'm just kind of chopping away at a lot of small pots. And that's the way I like poker to go, really. I like to just make these percentage plays and be more than happy to stay out of these, stay away from these big pots. Obviously when I have, a hand that I want to go with all in, then, I don't mind getting the money in, but, you don't want to, it's unfortunate when you're playing all these pots and then you happen to just run into a few coolers here and there, and then you're hoping to just win these small pots to make up for the coolers. I'd like to just chip away at small pots and just watch it add up. So that's a beautiful flop. So we'll just hope he goes nuts here. Wow, he does. So I think I'm just going to shove. There's just some ugly turn cards that can come. Either action killers for me, or, he could have hands that could draw out. So let's get the money in and hope for the best. Even if I just take it down right now, I still want $100, so that's pretty good. Okay, hold your breath. Well, nothing I can do there, obviously. So this is a spot I could potentially just give up. With the ace king here, this player is likely to look me up with just about anything. I'm going to check. So I could take a little stab. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take a little stab, 28 into 45. And I'm sure that'll be the last money I put in the pot. Unless I get like some kind of offsuit ace for the river. So it's a little bit frustrating that the fish at the table, I wasn't able to capitalize on him. It looks like, quite the opposite. I lost 150 big bet pot to him. He was definitely my target, and I ran into a great spot there. I didn't get my money in. Obviously I flopped the nuts, so there's nothing I can do, but he did have a lot of equity in that pot. I certainly wouldn't have played it the way he did, because he's either going to get it, all in behind, or he just doesn't have a whole lot of fold equity there. Like, I either have a hand like, top two pair, a set, or I'm on complete air. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to create such an enormous pot when he's just not likely to be ahead. And so, it worked out for him, but I wouldn't play it that way if I were him. If it was a type of hand that maybe he had some fold equity, it'd be a little different. Or a type of flop, like, like, I don't know, queen A3 with two diamonds, something where I'm going to pretty much need, aces, queens, even kings is going to be borderline, to want to play for my whole stack. But a flop like that, it's just so likely that it just smacked me right in the face, so I just wouldn't play it like that. I'm going to fold A7 suited. So I think I'm going to go for about 5 more minutes. This video is going to be a little shorter. I'm a little short on time. I like to make them about 45 minutes, but I think this one I'm going to have to wrap up in around 30 minutes. Maybe we can hit a 6 here and do some damage. Still have a fairly deep stack. I started with almost 3 buy-ins at this table. So I've still got about 140 bets. So, this would be a borderline continuation bet into 3 people. But with the presence of, the maniac, I wouldn't advocate it. I was considering taking a stab on the turn there, but it was probably best to just stay out of it. So I'll just min bet. Min bet's a really good play in those spots. It shows a huge profit. You don't need a hand either. Just guy checks to you, just min bet. You'll take down the pot plenty. So the fish left, and actually a reasonably decent player sat down. So that's unfortunate. Maybe hopefully he pumps the money back into somebody else that I can take it from on a later date. Oh wow, I mean, I'm not folding. I have a bad feeling, a sick feeling about this, but oh boy, he doesn't, I only have 70 hands. I'm not folding. Wow. So, from 3 buy-ins to Busto. I don't know, I don't know what that means, against this player. It's just really awfully difficult to fold kings pre-flop. That kind of action sometimes does mean aces, but it also can mean a lot of things. And against a guy with a 45 VPIP, who knows what it could mean. I'm just not going to fold kings pre-flop in a blind steal situation, even though he played it in the type of way that is either going to be aces or garbage. But I don't know. If I'd seen him do it sometime before, maybe I could consider it, but I don't think I can feel too bad. 100 blinds, well, 120 blinds deep, going broke there. So I feel a little bit. Okay, sixes. I'm just going to call here and hopefully I get a few people to tag along. I feel a little bit trapped because, I just feel like there wasn't a whole lot I could have done this video to really outplay anybody. I didn't really get any good situations to do that. And then I just got dealt 2 situations that are just ridiculous, really. I mean, you flop the nuts and you get it all in. That's as good as you can get. And you get all your money in pre-flop with kings against a bad player. And that's generally a winning play too. So, what am I going to do? It's been that kind of year. So this, I don't know what he's trying to tell us here. Is he saying, please call me, I have ace king? Or try to make a move on me? I don't know. I feel like if I call, this guy will probably make a move, but I don't know. I'm just going to call. I don't think I can make too big of an error calling for $2. I mean, I do have 2 pair right now. I can just see myself raising and just getting instantly shoved on. At least this makes him, try to make another move. $6. I don't know. I feel like, I'm just going to he's going to bleed me here. So I'm just going to get out of it. There is another player in the pot as well, so. I'd imagine this guy, Fund My Audi, has a similar type hand. And I'm really starting to think ace king, more and more as I saw this now. He seems to, just be playing like a typical bad player, just trying to lure you on, thinking he's being all sneaky, and then he's going to hit you at, at the end. But I don't think, this guy and me both play for a living. We're not going to be suckered into that game. $2 I can't fold. I could hit a 6, and then I get a stack every time. So the question is whether to make a play or not. But actually, I'm going to call it a video right there, and I labeled my last video the Carnage video. I might even have to come up with a new name for this one. This was really sick. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm not sure what we can take out of this one other than just don't get dealt like really awesome hands and play for your stacks. Anyway, take care, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.